Alright, I give myself permission to completely f*** up.
Oh yeah.
You got
To flub, and to flub again, and to flub once more, but beyond that, never again. It's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Can I put this here? You're not going to knock
No,
that over.
it's all good.
Like,
Unless I get really, really excited and gesticulate. Okay. Hello and welcome to Actors Nerding Out Loud. This is our first episode. My name is Jerome Meyer. This is...
I'm Nathaniel Middleton.
I'm Adele Querrell.
Yes, and this is, as I said, our first episode. We are three actors. We've been talking about films for our whole lives, attempting to act in them.
As soon as we were born.
As soon as we were
literally,
born.
just like,
Out of the womb.
talking
about films.
Giving reviews. And so we thought what we would do is we would put it on camera. And we wanted to share it with you guys to share our opinions of the latest films. So without too much more preamble, I reckon let's get straight into it.
Sure.
Awesome.
So the first film that we're looking at today is going to be...
Can I quickly just say, we thought that we would start off with films that have been given the nod by the Academy.
Yes, in the lead up to
Oscar
the Academy Awards, we thought we would try and review all of the Academy Award nominated films. And that's why we're starting with these two. We're going to be doing today Little Women and Parasite. But we're going to start with Little Women.
Alrighty, so Little Women, directed by Greta Gerwig, is the sixth film adaptation of Louisa May Alcott's beloved novel of the same name. So the film follows the lives and loves of four sisters in the second half of 19th century America. Jo, Meg, Beth, and Amy, and their mother are left to fend for themselves while their father is off fighting in the Civil War, leaving them to wrangle with these strict societal limitations and expectations of women at the time. Jo, played by Saoirse Ronan, aspires to be a successful writer in an industry that's really dominated by men. Meg, played by Emily Watson, longs for the financial freedom to be able to buy beautiful dresses. Amy, played by Florence Pugh, believes that she deserves just as much attention as Jo gets. And Beth, played by Eliza Scanlon, finds the solace of expression in the playing of the piano. It is, as one of the characters in the film says, a story of domestic struggles and joys. That could sound like a really, really bland cinema outing, but this film's actually, I think, a masterpiece. The film Little Women celebrates the poignant ups and downs of a household growing up together, and it powerfully explores the themes of life, death, love, following your dreams, and the challenges of being a woman in society that are still, I think, painfully relevant today. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I loved it.
Yep.
Absolutely loved it.
I totally agree. I think it's a really beautiful adaptation of the book. Have you guys read the book?
No,
I actually haven't.
I haven't actually read the
have.
book nor seen any of the original films. So this was literally my first exposure to the narrative. Yeah.
I've read the book and I saw the previous adaptation with Winona Ryder playing Jo, which was really, really lovely as well.
I did see that one as well.
Yeah, but I think this one gives, Greta Gerwig as the director of this adaptation has really given it something a little bit special that I think the book really does the book great service in making it accessible to a really contemporary audience as we are today.
Yeah, because I think the 1993 version, I think, directed by Gillian Armstrong. Is that her name?
Hard G, soft G, who knows?
That one, I think that one really, it's very much a period piece. In terms of the whole delivery, it's very much I should very much like to go to the market. It's a great film.
Very charming.
But this one, the dialogue, the scripting, the way it's the whole thing is very accessible.
Which interestingly, some people have
taken issue with
the contemporary way the characters interact with each other.
Yeah. Did anyone find that jarring? I have to admit that there was moments when there were the contemporary acting style did slightly because you had three very different actors, and because they weren't doing the twee thing, which kind of really pushes people in together. You had very varying acting styles from all different actors, and therefore there was like some of the scenes, some of the ensemble scenes, I felt almost like I was watching different films from the different actors.
Yeah, right.
It is the most gentle note that I can give, because really what I just said is my only issue with the film.
I did. There were moments where I did feel pushed out of the reality of the time in terms of like physical behavior, etc., etc. But it didn't really bother me too much, because I was so charmed by the warmth and the heart and the courage of these performances and the story of Little Women that it didn't really bother me.
And I didn't have that at all. I really bought, this household of women really having to band together to survive, and that seamless banter, very familiar banter. I don't know. For me, it didn't take me out of the time at all. I was really completely, for the whole film, not just the acting, but the costume design, the directing, the music. It all was so cohesive that I was truly in the film the entire time.
I think cohesive is such a great word for it. Yeah, I felt cohesive. Like, I felt like in terms of all of the films that are up for Best Picture, and this is why it's such a rort that Greta Gerwig did not get a Best Director nomination, is that
I don't understand
in
it.
terms of direction, as a piece of cinema, it is incredibly cohesive.
Yeah.
You really do enter into it from the beginning, and you just fall from thing to thing until the end of it. And comparatively with we're not reviewing other films, but with films like Joker or Jojo Rabbit, that I felt were very bitty. They had amazing parts in them, but they were like these chunky little sections of film, whereas you just went into Little Women and it was this experience. And for me as a man as well, really getting a full kind of comprehensive study of feminism in a film without ever feeling like I was being slapped by it.
So just to add on to that, just two things. The original timeline in the book plays out linearly.
Yeah,
so her
that
decision,
last film as well was also...
Yeah, exactly. So Greta Gerwig's decision to play with the time frame of this, I thought was brilliant.
And make thematic leaps in time rather than narrative leaps.
But apparently that is something, again, that some people have been finding really confusing, and some people have actually likened it to watching a maze, which I could follow it very easily.
Yeah.
I didn't find that at all.
Maybe if people went in with an expectation of the original storyline, they got confused. You know, when you know what something is, like if you've read the book and so you know the events, when suddenly that doesn't play out, you get confused by it.
Totally, yeah. When you're expecting something and you get thrown in any direction, I think. But sorry.
So I just want to throw this one thing to you guys because I really loved this. This is a quote from Greta Gerwig, where she says, "Every line and every moment in this movie could be footnoted. I hope this doesn't make it sound utterly dull, but it's a thesis." And I really think that that's an incredible synthesized comment from a director who has created a thesis of creativity, from all of the perspectives of, different women in this. And I wanted to ask you guys, as men watching this movie, did you feel left out of that at all, or did you feel included in it, or?
I felt I felt like I could have been left out, but I wasn't, and I was really moved by that because, as I said, it wasn't a hard hand towards men.
I really didn't think so either.
No, yeah. I thought that I forget the name of the actor, but the guy that plays the dad.
Are you talking about Chris Cooper?
Oh,
Chris Cooper.
He was so wonderfully played.
Oh,
the
my
neighbor.
goodness.
That plays the neighbor, and so gently played. And my masculine brain, when he came in, because I didn't know the story, my first thought was something seedy's going to happen between these two.
Right.
When he wants her to play the piano in his house. And of course, because that's what I'm so used to. I'm so used to the men in the film just being absolutely rorted and shamed if it's going to be anything like a feminist manifesto. But it ended up being this celebration of the gentleness between everyone, and that to me is the key word for this film. In so many films out there at the moment that just are not gentle. This was so incredibly gentle.
And also, like, I'm just thinking this while you've just been talking as well. Like, there were actually, in terms of the men that were portrayed, Chris Cooper's character as the father, and even Timothée Chalamet as the love interest, and the teacher character as well. I can't remember his name. The love interest of Meg.
Yeah.
They're all actually very like soft, very in touch with their vulnerability.
Yeah.
Like all of them, and very like very expressive in the way that they speak. So I don't actually feel like there was. I actually really appreciated that as well. Like the men portrayed were given. I don't know. I felt like I could really relate with those men.
I guess for me, and this is the way my brain works, so I just kind of have to do it. But I relate it to things like, have you seen the series Transparent?
No.
Yep.
Well, Jill Soloway is a female director, and often when female directors direct male characters in these things that are tilted towards a feminist idea of things, sometimes I do feel like the male characters do come off as these cardboard cutouts of idiots. And I completely understand why. Because there are so many films where men aren't idiots, and it's time that we have a good amount of films that just, show that women aren't idiots and men can be. But this film, every male character within the feminist manifesto added to the feminist manifesto in its own deep male way. And it was a truly, authentically male way. I didn't feel like he was writing male characters. She was writing female male characters. They were still men, and they were really understood as men.
It just wasn't buying into this untrue stereotype of just,
of men being
emotionally closed off and...
Yeah. Which again, I think played into how much was she playing with our idea of that period,
Go.
I was going to say, going more into the technical aspects, I think Greta Gerwig directed with such a deft hand. I think she got incredible performances out of the actors.
Totally agreed.
I think she really played to the strengths of each actor and was able to bring out like the best of each of them. It was actually the best performance I've ever, in my opinion, that I've ever seen from Emily Watson. I've always found
Emma
Watson. Sorry. Yeah. I've tended to find her other performances very similar in that there's like a strained quality almost, but this one, like I just saw her. I was really with her. What did you guys think of the acting?
Yes, I totally agree. It was exactly what I was going to bring up as well. I think the only sort of not even a criticism really, but comment of something that maybe didn't quite work for me was Greta Gerwig as an actor herself has an incredibly unique sort of style, and she tries to bring that out in her actors. And there were a few moments where I could see her directing tending towards, this is how I would play this. This is how I, Greta Gerwig, if I was an actor in this moment.
That's so interesting.
This is how I would play it.
But that kind of Greta Gerwig neurotic kind of...
and impulsivity, but the actors she was working with aren't her.
Yeah.
And so I thought there were a few moments where I was like, oh, I can see what you're trying to get at.
Right.
As opposed to what is the actor's impulse and releasing their impulse, as opposed to this is what I would do if I was acting this role. But once again, such a tiny little thing in what I think is otherwise a superbly nuanced and rich and deep film.
I actually agree with Natty on this one. I didn't notice that. I think it's a really interesting point, but I didn't notice that. I actually think I saw the best performances from most of the women in the film. I didn't think Timothée Chalamet was that great, personally. I think I've seen him do better things, but I think he was a little intimidated by the role, maybe. But that's just obviously speculation.
Big role.
Yeah. But I thought that for Saoirse was the best work I've ever seen her do, and I thought for me, Florence Pugh was
She's amazing.
Phenomenal.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And so
she had to play from 13 to 20 in that role.
And completely sold it. And I think the moment that sold it for me was when she burns the book.
Yeah.
Okay, for me was such
Spoiler
a moment.
alert.
Spoiler alert. It was so hard to justify the actions of that character, but because of the intensity and kind of brattiness that she brought to the role, but a likable brattiness.
Yeah.
I was actually completely with that character, and also with her when she got forgiven, because it's such a heinous act.
Yeah, it really is.
But you kind of,
I felt sick.
and then again, that's another thing that Greta Gerwig absolutely nailed, is that you felt these tiny domestic acts within the film separate the love in the film and then pull the love back. So you had these moments of separation, and then because there was so much love in the film, you were torn, and so of course then when you deal with things like grief in a film like that, you're actually affected for the first time in so long, rather than having a character die and then not care about them.
So
Totally.
I think we all agree it's a great
Yes.
film. What would you give it?
Just the only other quickly thing I
yeah,
just
go
need to
for
really
it.
quickly say is the Jacqueline Durran, the costume designer,
Yep.
the costumes were amazing, and also the cinematographer, York Lasso. The shots were just
Beautiful.
breathtaking.
It was a fantastic film. Yeah.
But for me, I was actually sobbing.
Me too.
I sobbed like a little child. I thought this film was breathtaking and amazing, and I'm going to give it 5 chooks out of 5.
5 chooks
First
out of
review,
5.
5 chooks out of 5.
5
Whoa.
chooks. Yeah,
Okay.
I was blown away.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna give it. I'm just coming up with my rating system now. Okay, I'm just gonna go with stars today, but I'm gonna give it 4 stars out of 5. Yeah.
Yep. Really, really bold reimagining of this tale. I absolutely loved it, and 4 stars from me as well. Incredible film. And
Great.
I can't believe that Greta Gerwig didn't get nominated
A
for
travesty.
Best Director.
Cool. All right. Well, let's move on to Parasite.
Move on
Boom.
to Parasite. Thank you. Okay, so moving on to we're recording, yes?
Yes, and we're back after messages from our sponsors.
Yeah.
Please sponsor us.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know mine off by heart, so I'm reading this from my hastily written notes. The second film that we're going to be reviewing is the incredible South Korean film Parasite, directed by Bong Joon-ho. He also directed Okja and Snowpiercer, in case you've seen those. This is a dark comedy that takes a truly dark turn as we follow a family's attempt to get out of their cramped, dead-end, semi-basement home and essentially try and live a new, shiny life in the home of their wealthy employers. I really wanted to flag with this film because I did, just a heads up guys, I really liked it. It won the 2019 Palme d'Or at Cannes, which is incredible. It also won the 2020 BAFTA Best Foreign Language Film and Best Original Screenplay at the BAFTAs as well. And it's nominated for Oscar Best Picture, Best Director, Best Foreign Language Film, and Best Original Screenplay. You know,
Best Picture.
yeah, fingers crossed. It would be incredible for a foreign film to win Best Picture. So I think this is an incredible film that deals with really strong themes of human dignity, class struggle, and gives us access to these themes that can be overwhelmingly depressing in a way that makes you laugh and feel uncomfortable while laughing, but at least means you can sit through the movie without necessarily, wanting to kill yourself because, what is life in today's world? Really, really complex film. Guys?
Yeah, I mean, complex. I mean, I'm not sure about you guys, but I was actually really challenged in terms of thinking of reviewing the film after I saw it because I found it really hard to classify. It's like, okay, as I started watching, it's like, okay, this is a comedy, okay, it's a drama, okay, it's a thriller, okay, it's a horror.
Well, honestly, one of the first things that I thought is that it is this director in particular, I think he's legitimately creating a genre of his own.
Totally.
And I had the same experience because I even felt performance-wise, I didn't know where they sat sometimes because there was almost like this over-the-top clowning performances from some of the actors sometimes, slapstick stuff.
Cartoonish.
And
And it was
some of the physicalities were...
Yeah, and it was almost dissociating me for a little bit, but then I was still inevitably moved. So, it was literally sitting in a unclassifiable genre for me, which allowed me to give it more leeway than I probably would if it was another film by another director.
Yeah, I do think the fact that it is a foreign film means that I think it's really great for us as a Western audience. I do think we receive it more easily and deeply almost than we would if it was a straight up Western film, an English or an American film. I don't know, I think it just touches a nerve in a way that it would otherwise not disturb.
I mean, the thing is that I just want to posit the question to you guys is that, like, would any other director than this director, Bong Joon-ho,
Bong Joon-ho, yeah.
Bong Joon-ho, I've got away with how heavy-handed the metaphors are in it. I mean, when you actually look at how blatantly he uses metaphor in every scene to incite a almost didactic experience of this is the class struggle, you know, this is what we are doing to each other as human beings.
Yeah.
You know, the wealth in the rock that then becomes the object that kills the guy who's carrying the rock around.
Or does it?
Or does it? Or does it? Now they really don't know.
Neither do you.
And I find, but this is the thing, right? He's done this before in Okja and Snowpiercer. He is not afraid to put a metaphor front and center in his films in a really, really heavy-handed way. But he makes comment in it in this film. He actually has 3 or 4 jokes throughout the film where he goes, "Oh, that's very metaphorical. Oh, it's very metaphorical." And I wondered if that was the director being like, "Look, guys, I know what I'm doing, but this is what I think film should be."
So I'm not sure if I can say that I thought it was heavy-handed. Like, it definitely for me was like, here's a metaphor. Hello, I'm a metaphor. How are you today? But it was the way it was presented. I was totally buying it. I was totally this is so.
And I was too.
This is so.
And I think that's through the use of comedy. You know, comedy allows for so much. And you know, when you have these humans that are actually scuttling around that home like human cockroaches, do you know what I mean? It's just such an obvious metaphor, and yet it's so hilarious to watch that you laugh and then squirm at the fact that you're laughing at these people who are being forced to scuttle around this home like cockroaches, or crawl along the floor like a giant slug, like an intruder in this wealthy home, like a parasite. As
Hello, I'm a metaphor. No, but I mean the thing, I guess the thing is like what the delineation for me is whether it works or not. Because if you have a film that does that and the metaphors don't get pulled off and they don't move you, then it's annoying. It's annoying when someone tries to do something so obvious. But when it moves you, and I was deeply, especially the scene for me, the most effective scene for me was when they were talking about the smell. Of them, and they were hiding underneath.
Human dignity. Human dignity.
Scene.
Wasn't it so heartbreaking? And the way he left the camera on that wonderful actor. Can we get the name of the actor? The dad.
Yeah. So the rich dad.
The
main
famous,
dad,
Kang Ho Song. Yeah, he was just sitting there, and it was probably the most still he'd been yet in the film, because up until that point he was quite a caricature.
And it was just that subtle move of you know, smelling
his own clothing, and your heart just went.
Oh. And the point that, you know, the rich father speaking to his wife about the crossing of the line, that barrier, and that until he mentioned it, she hadn't wound the car window down when she was in the same car as him. She hadn't noticed it, but as soon as he mentioned it, down the window goes. And I thought that was just the suggestion of like, oh, there's a line being crossed here in this class divide was.
I think the reason why we buy it and we engage with it so strongly is because it is uncompromising in its lack of sentimentality in dealing with these issues. So there is a confronting nature that the comedic style needs in order for us to stick with it the whole way. And you know, if the film didn't go to the places where it does end up going by the end of the movie, I don't think it would be as entirely successful as it is.
That's what I mean. You know, you have to
uncompromisingly follows the journey out to its natural conclusion, and it is devastating. It is just devastating watching that happen to this family that we've laughed with, that we've, you know, been on their side, you know, go you guys, change your state sort of thing. But
then that wonderful thing as well, which is another metaphor that I thought was very, very well handled, was one of his less, what I would say, heavy-handed metaphors was that even when you are in pursuit of wealth, even if you are a poor person in pursuit of wealth, you still end up perpetuating the cycle.
Yes.
You know, because he you know, because in the end he did it beautifully with the bodies and the bodies that were underneath the house and things like that. So the young boy in his dream was going to be, you know, living on top of the bodies of the poor people eventually. So even when you are yourself a poor person, you still at some point have to live on top of the foundations of the class cycle that you yourself has escaped from.
Well, I think there was that really powerful moment sort of halfway through when we're getting to this turning point where the mother character makes that point. Of course, these wealthy people are nice because they're wealthy. They haven't needed to struggle and lie and deceive in order to survive in their life. They've been able to be clean and ironed, and they have the privilege of being nice and gentle and forgiving. You know, whereas when you are in that struggling lower socioeconomic group, you know, it's fucking hard, and you've got to fight tooth and nail and take what you can, irrespective of... Dog. Totally. And it's such an important comment to make today, especially. I think we are absolutely living in that world. You know, we've got a very important election coming up in America, you know, and I think this movie speaks to that climate that we're going to also see play out in the US election as well. So I think that the timing of this movie is really prevalent.
How do we feel about the camera work? About there's a lot of kind of long, slow, kind of moving in and out and around the house, and obviously because of this, what we're talking about, the metaphors, so often landing on the point of contact you're supposed to make with the metaphor, you know, whether it was the rock or like you said, the opening of the film being, you know, the first shot of just seeing from the basement
laundry through the basement window.
So seeing the lower class from the first shot, you know,
and they're actually low. Do you know what I mean?
Like, or them going down all the stairs when they return to their house, you know.
Yeah.
So the cinematographer was Hong Kyung-pyo.
Yeah.
I actually think, like, I felt very much in the scene. Like one shot that comes to mind is when the main character, the poor son, Woo Sik Choi, played by Woo Sik Choi, is talking with his university friend at that table, and the lens is so wide, and it really just, like, I really felt like I was sitting there looking at them. It was so it was like an unflinchingly real look at these people. I felt like I could see the pores in their skin. So I actually thought it was very stark and like just like I was very much there. So I thought it was well done in terms of being able to really feel like I could almost smell the sweat, smell the basement, smell the polished cleaning agents used in the upper class.
Totally, and the difference in capturing the two stages, because this is, I think, a very theatrical production, and you've got one stage, which is their semi-basement home, constricted, almost like a little rabbit warren, the toilet being up in that tiny little, you know, section, and then you have the second stage, which is this beautiful, you know, wealthy house that you automatically associate with privilege, where suddenly it's just space and it's long silence, long shots, you know, openness.
Oh, they used silence so well. The sound design was fantastic. There were two or three moments when the housekeeper was getting fired, and it just cuts to just the wind in the trees. You know, and you really were left with moments of, again, human dignity being ripped out from under you, and he would leave you with no sentimentality in the music or the camera style. You know, it really did. He did take it out of those kind of technical elements, so you were really left to just witness it through so many parts of the film, which is, I think, is what builds that discomfort that you feel, and then the vulnerability that you feel as well towards the end, so as a human, knowing that that's happening and not doing anything about it.
So I think for me, like, the two really important and successfully delivered elements of this film was looking at this idea of the haves and the have-nots. And then with the have-nots, if you identify with being in that position, what lengths are you willing to go to in order to change your position within society, and at what cost? And then also, if you're in the haves situation, at what point do you recognize that you are placing other people in a position where they're having to be brutal in order to survive? Do you know what I mean?
I mean, that is one comment I would say on the film, is that the upper class are left without a whole lot of a rebuttal in this film.
I think rightfully so.
No, I'm not saying, but in terms of like when we just were talking about Little Women and being able to have a like you are, what's the word? You are pushing away a certain amount of viewership because people will shut off because they know they're being spoken to directly. And they're not being given a voice, and they will shut off from that.
That's true. I would have had a very different experience of the film if I was from the upper class.
Yeah.
And not all upper class people are like those people in the film.
Which is amazing that it is doing so well in Hollywood. You know, when you wonder how many of those people are sitting back and going
it's a
like,
foreign language.
Yeah, but I mean, because it gets away with it. But how many people sitting back being like, oh, I should probably donate some of my money to a charity after watching that film, or just going home and be like, what a fantastic film, look at those poor people. You hope that that's not what they're walking away and doing. I feel like we have to wrap up. So
well, just quickly, I really like those questions. One of the main questions that came up for me, which we don't necessarily need to answer, but is, we love rooting for the underdog as the audience. We love the Robin Hood type character of taking from the rich for the poor. I need to speak for myself. I'm not sure about for you two, but I was rooting for this family.
Totally.
But my question coming out was like, at what point do you stop rooting for the underdog? These people were criminals, and there was thieves, and they were stealing. Yes, they're poor, but they were interlopers in these people's houses, and they were liars, and they were.
But that brings me back to the point originally that I was making about, in order to break the cycle or to break yourself free from the cycle of the class system, you inevitably have to step on somebody. And so there was a point in the film, like the wonderful part of the big, I won't reveal, but the big kick that happens that causes one of the big important parts of the film. It is the moment of my heart rendering where she's one of the characters transitioned from being someone I was supporting to someone I'm like, you're now a part of the class system that you're fighting against.
Right.
You're literally stepping on those that you've climbed above to get to where you are. Metaphor. A metaphor.
Just quickly as well, like, I'm not sure if you two, but the standout for me in terms of performance was the poor daughter played by So-Dam Park.
Yeah,
her scene as the art therapist.
Yes.
I was just like, my whole being was just like beaming with entertainment.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Wow.
And I also want to give credit to the rich mother Jo, who played upper class so well, and also played naivety so well. And it's very hard as an intelligent actor to seem like you are being tricked. And she was completely believably tricked for me, and I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, I totally bought into it as well.
I just lost my train of thought.
Ratings?
Rating. Yeah, we've got to go.
Yeah. Okay. So just quickly, one of my only gripes with the film was that I feel like there's some scenes felt a bit stretched.
Yeah.
And I feel like in terms of editing, at least 5 minutes could have been easily lost without the film losing any of its impetus or impact. For me, I'm giving it. I'm going to give it 4 chooks out of 5.
Okay. I'm going to give this one 3.5 stars. Mainly because I'm still not 100% bought on the type of intelligence it takes to be so blatant with your metaphors. I think that really, really, really great filmmaking takes it 1 or 2 steps further, that it happens on a visceral level rather than that kind of didactic intellectual level. But that is just a taste thing for me. I think that you can walk away from a film feeling like you understand the issue rather than just knowing you understand it because someone told it through a certain set of metaphors. But he did it incredibly well, and I really bought it, but just that was my only point.
I absolutely love this film. I'm giving it 4.5 stars. It has stayed with me and made me actually change the way I interact with the world around me. It hasn't just been a personal experience for me, but this film has actually, made me really interact with my surroundings differently. So pretty amazing. 4.5 for me.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Well, thanks so much for coming along on the journey with us, guys.
Actors Nerding Out Loud.
Actors Nerding Out Loud. Please subscribe, like, and
share.
Join us.
Share, and
if you like anything we've said here, or you think that we've kind of given you kind of a new way of looking at these films, or inspired you to go see the films, please share it around, and let's get this thing off the ground.
Join us next week. See you later.
Yay!
Yay!
I want to watch it.
Oh, that was really fun, guys. I really loved,